Ramayana, Valmiki Ramayana has 600 astronomy descriptions. Same method, guys. I'm going to show you the method. You solve this jigsaw puzzle, crossword puzzle, together one answer, 12,209 BCE for the year of Ram Ravan Yuddha. 14,000 years ago, Ramayana. How many of you have heard other numbers? Now you know the process here. Okay, if you have heard, they are wrong. Okay. Now both Ramayana and Mahabharata refer to Rigveda, which means Rigveda must be older. It's not astronomy descriptions, but it's the descriptions of the river Saraswati and geological evidence that tells you that Rigveda is definitely 25,000 years or older. So just for simplicity, Mahabharata more than 7,000, Ramayana more than 14,000, Rigveda more than 21,000. That's a summary. What I want to show you is the method is the same. Whether you are making a business innovation, whether you are making a operational change, whether you are doing research in psychology, humanities, anthropology, method is exactly the same. Actual test, all those things, lab, those will change. But a philosophical method is same. And only Indian Shastra will take you what you know today about that method. If you want to go beyond that, only Indian Shastra will do that for you. Okay, let's go next. Don't have a GDP data going back beyond 2,000 years. But I said, if you go beyond Angus Madison data, what was the situation in India? If you read descriptions in Ramayana, if you read descriptions in Mahabharata, those were glorious times. Now, glorious time doesn't mean they were not fighting. In fact, it is all about fighting. Okay? But there is a fighting everywhere. The game theory, the businesses, everywhere. That has to be there. Your goal is to fight successfully without getting crucified. Okay? Then you are a successful business person. Okay? Just want to show you what was the descriptions that we read in Ramayana, Mahabharata, even Puranas sometime. What is the basis? I mean, is there a reason to believe that that prosperity that is claimed there was actually there? Just quickly, I'm going to show you the history of Indian navigation. How many of you know that the ships, the biggest ships, in fact, even Titanic, although it was built there, but the technology, not because it went down, but the Titanic or even other ships, until World War I and even close to World War II, the best place in the world for technology, manpower, everything was India. Now, do you know who I had to hear it from? I did not know this. I came to know only about 20 years ago. My friend, have you watched the movie Ford versus Ferrari? How many of you have seen that? Ford versus Ferrari. So that Ferrari, the Ford GT40, you have seen? So my friend, my fellow engineer, colleague, he used to take those old GT40s and redesign them and stuff like this. Even he built an aeroplane from the scratch. Of course, he will buy the parts. And I was scared of sitting in that aeroplane, you know. Somebody you know, you don't trust. Okay? But he told me, so he was building this aeroplane, and he says, man, we used to go every Thursday for lunch. And he said, oh, this is so fascinating. I did not know that India was the shipbuilding magnet, you know. I said, what are you talking? Through him, I came to know that India was doing phenomenal, and actually the technology was there. But I want to just show you the evidence in a different way. This is Pumpuhar in Tamil Nadu. Going back to about 20,000 years. The vertical line that you see this line here? This is the today's seashore line. But now east of it is all underwater. Right now it is underwater. Do you know how far inside? About 30 kilometers. And in Pumpuhar, you see a archaeology evidence of 7 different ports. 3 ports going back to about 20,000 years. They may even go older, but we just don't have a data because the data gets destroyed, you know, and I will not explain why that happens. But when sea levels are rising for last 20,000 years, so when they rose around 16,000 somewhere there, the port 1 was gone underwater. Now this is how business. If you lose in one deal, you say, okay, no, sorry, I can't do anything. No, they build a second port inside. The business continues. When that was gone, let me see if I have a chart, about 8,000 BC, 10,000 years ago, second port was gone because of sea level rise. They built port inside, P3. Fast forward, I'm taking you to the timing of, this is Mahabharata time, 5525 BCE, Krishna's Dwarka getting flooded and destroyed. That happened on the west coast, exactly same time, because it was a global event. The water came in, not only destroyed port 3, but water ingressed inside the land. Today it is a land, 10 to 15 kilometers to a place called Mayuram. They said, fine, we will build a port there. So Mayuram was a port for next 2,000 years, and then the water started receding. So what I want to tell you, just remember, the other Mahabharata dates also, I want to talk about them. So other date of Mahabharata is around 3000 BC, most of the dates, 5,000 years. How are they going to flood Krishna's Dwarka? Not possible. Actually, after that 5525 BCE, 7,000 years, the water is receding, water is going away, water levels are going down. There is no flood, nothing. But back to this, so when it changed, they built another fort, Sri Kali. Then it changed again, they built to another one called Nungur. Okay, and currently where you see right now, that is where the Pumpuar is. This is a 20,000 years of navigation history I covered in about 2 minutes. This is Professor Ramaswamy 2020 paper. Now, if you are navigating, if you are just going fishing, coming back, no big deal. But if you are going around the world, we need GPS, agree? I mean, you need GPS in Thane. But we need GPS, right? So what is the GPS, by the way? Anyone? It's the astronomy. It's the astronomy, okay? You can see phenomenal sophisticated Indian astronomy going back to thousands of years, not centuries. How many years? If you just take the text of Surya Siddhanta, add to it Maitrayani Aranyak, and that's it. If you take these two texts, I can take you back to about 40,000 years of sophisticated, accurate, precise, pragmatic Indian astronomy. Okay? I will not go into the details, but those are some of the epochs. This is how predicting the position of the sun. Just take a minute to see what you see there. 2,000 years ago, the Greek times. How many of you have heard, like the Greek astronomy is the oldest? Raise your hand. Greek astronomy and Indian learns from Greek astronomy. What bullshit and nonsense. Am I allowed to say that? Yeah. Business school we are. Okay? I don't know what you say. In America, people say a lot worse things, okay, in a business schools. Because whatever is spoken at a business, you can speak at a business school, they say. But it is a bullshit. The reason I'm saying it, if you don't say it, people do not internalize it. They still keep on repeating that utter nonsense. Okay? There is no question. If you look at the Greek method 2,000 years ago for predicting the position of the sun, in their own times, it is 2 times worse than the Indian method. But the magic happens if you go back and try to find out when exactly Indian designed that equation. Do you know where it goes? It goes to Mahabharata times, 7,500 years ago. It is so accurate that you don't need to make even correction. Now today, the Surya Siddhanta equation is not accurate because with time the things change, we have to recalibrate. I'll go fast through this. You must have heard that Johannes Kepler, how many of you heard the name Kepler? What is he famous for? Loudly please. Kepler's law, yeah, sure. Easy answer. You get all the marks, But what is his big deal? Like the revolution that Kepler made. The orbits are not circular, orbits are elliptical. When did Kepler say that? 16th and 17th century. This one is going back to Mahabharata times 7,500 years. This is both from Surya Siddhanta, by the way. Nothing to do with Ramayana Mahabharata. I'm just saying the timing. This goes back to Ramayana times 12,000 BC. These are the models in Surya Siddhanta. And if you follow this, they are saying they are following the elliptical path for the planets. Okay? This is the paper, this is the work, that side is Dr. Anil Narayanan, aeronautical engineer, ISRO scientist, now in Washington, DC. On this side is Nilesh, Rupa Bhati. We presented at Oxford conference. I asked professors to hang on to their chairs so that they won't fall. In fact, the Indian PhD student came after, because I'm talking 12,000 BC. And the Oxford and Cambridge professor were scoffing. I said, scoff as much as you want. This is the truth. So some Indian PhD student, to placate his professor, he comes to me and says, sir, maybe you are making a mistake. Maybe you mean 1200 BC. I said, no, 12,000 BC. Okay? So the reason I'm showing you this is that the technology and a lot more, I'll just go through that. The technology, the innovation, it was there. The question we have to ask is, where did we lose it? Okay? A quick list here. Now this is the trade, the business, what business loves, you know. Precious stones, dyes, coloring, silk, cotton. The trade from East Asia, like Shanghai, there is evidence in Shanghai, the eastern mountains. Okay, Yan Dan Shan mountain. I have physically gone there, trekked into those mountains. Okay, so if you go from, how many of you have been to China? Okay, so if you go to Shanghai, from there Hangzhou, and then go take the track and Wuzhou and so on and so forth. Okay, agriculture, we have evidence going back to 20,000 plus years. Actually, do you know how old evidence is? There is a evidence of harvesting, maybe wild harvesting. Maybe they don't have to plant. If wild lot of stuff comes, like Kokan Karvanda, you don't have to plant them, but you harvest them. Okay? So you just take those, harvest them, store, cook, process, etc. There is a evidence of sophisticated agriculture in India going back to 45,000 years. Peer-reviewed papers, not by Nilesh. Okay? So it's there. How many of us know it? No. So agriculture was there. Silk. Ramayana is 14,000 years ago, I said. You will see Ramayana time and time again. Kausalya is wearing, okay, the silk sari. Sita is given a vastra with a silk vastra and so on. You don't hear so much of cotton in Ramayana. That's not to say it was not there. It may not have been mentioned. But you come to Mahabharata, you see cotton. But do you know something? Recently in archaeology, they found a cotton fiber in Israel. How many of you have heard that news? Cotton fiber in Israel, which is dated to Mahabharata times. They don't say Mahabharata, they say 5500 BCE. I am saying it's Mahabharata times. And do you know what they found from the genetic research on it? That cotton is not an Egyptian cotton. That cotton is an Indian cotton. You can just go and type, ask AI. Hey, please show me the research of the cotton fiber found in Israel. Please date it. What is the dating of it? What is the origin of that fiber? It's so easy these days, guys. Just do not trust everything AI says. Okay? All right. Cows, if I have time, I will talk about it. So, if you want innovation, what do you need? If you want innovation, question the status quo. Everything. Like, it's a lot easy. We talk of Indian knowledge system and then think of only glorifying. Okay, so how this matches with Vedanta, how this matches with Bhagavad Gita, the wisdom of Bhagavad Gita, and relationship at workplace. Nothing wrong with it. But a usage like this is actually a trivialization of Bhagavad Gita. There is a lot more to Bhagavad Gita than just trying to find the coincidences or just the correlations. Definitely find those. That's a good starting point. But there is a lot more to it. If you want to even question the Bhagavad Gita. I like it when people say, I don't like Ram or I don't agree with Ram on this one. But don't stop there. Now do the Purva Paksha. We are going to hear from him on the Dasabodh. Okay, now you say Das, of course, I don't want to steal his thunder, but now the subject came. So for example, Dasabodh, now what does that has to do with science and technology and understanding things and resolving conflicts and whatnot. Everything. If you do this, okay? पूर्व पक्ष आणि सिद्धांत, शास्त्रीय बोलीला संकेत, याचा होय निश्चितार्थ साधुमुखे. Sadhu means the person who has a balanced attitude, objective attitude. Only he can resolve it. Many of the foolishness, for example, in my research field, Mahabharata, I have come up with one date. There are 140 people out there with those many different dates. Okay? Why? I can very confidently say, of course, everyone must be feeling the same way, that their date is correct. And you say, what do I do? It's very easy, guys. Again, look at what Samartha Ramdas Swami has to say. समूळ ग्रंथ पाहिल्या विण उगाच ठेवी जो दूषण गुण सांगता अवगुण पाहे तो एक पडत मूर्ख. Don't be one. Very simple. Or many people, what do? There are likes of, I can take the names, that doesn't matter. But you can guess those people because they are in the reels and whatnot, right? So what do? They will take my statement, deliberately torture it, and try to do some stupidity and get some movement, right? What Samartha Ramdas Swami says, अक्षरे गाळूनी वाची काते घाली पदरीची निघान करी पुस्तकाची तो एक मूर्ख. This is the wisdom you want to do, not just necessarily the coincidences. Okay, this is the wisdom that will take you further. Okay, let's go through the next one. So I can go back. Yeah. Okay. Question the status quo. You know where India started. Now this may be just it might have happened. India may not have done deliberately. And maybe India did deliberately. Then you need to read Rigveda. The Rigvedic language is where the language began, where the human being practically starts speaking. The monkeys also communicate, birds also communicate, but they don't speak in the way we speak. The enunciation, pronunciation, and the different way of use of a language. That began here, guys. You see, you can read it. The reversal of human phylogeny, Homo left Africa as erectus, okay, Homo erectus. They left it, but they came back as a sapiens. Sapiens meaning thinking human being. Now, where the thinking human beings were cooked, you see, because they don't want to accept India, so they say India and outside. But if you look at that broader view, basically that's the ancient India, guys. If you look at Ramayana, you'll see the influence of Ramayana with India as a center all the way to Egypt. And if you go to the east, all the way to Philippines, including China, including Korea, including Japan. And also South America, but I'm not going there today. Okay, you can see that. So we started right there in terms of even thinking. Now I told you there is only one method and I used it for everything and you should also use it for everything. That method is here. Now people ask me, so Nilesh, all that you talk about this Ramayana, Mahabharata, whatever Indian knowledge system, it is very easy to talk in front of the home crowd. Indians, they will just nod the head, they say, yeah. Many in Shraddha, many said, chalo uska finish karne do, taliya bajayenge, nikal jayenge. Whatever the cause, you may just do it. They say, but how do you convince the Western audience? How will you convince the Western mind? I said, I lived there for 35 years. I do not, and I have given lots of lectures, more lectures in outside India than inside. And I said, I don't have even a single occasion where I had a problem convincing a Western individual about the logic reasoning of my research. All the problem are in India. No, I understand the logic, but I don't want to accept. That is their logic. Okay? So that's what you find here. This is the method, guys. If you consider the best method in science today, the logic of scientific method, logic of scientific discovery, it is what? These 5 steps. You have a problem, business problem, philosophical problem, psychology problem, doesn't matter what problem, family problem, husband-wife fight, doesn't matter, write it down. What is the problem? And you can have 2 hypotheses. What is your hypothesis? Have you heard this story? Like 4 men, few men are in the middle of forest, talking everything that's on their mind. And no woman is around. Are they still wrong? Okay. Some people got it, that's fine. Okay. It's okay. That's why you need to learn Shastra. Okay. So for example, if you consider the method, you say there is a problem. To solve this, you propose a solution. That's a hypothesis. Hypothesis decide what you need to do, what kind of data you need to collect, the experiments, whatnot. You actually do the experiments, that tells you something, and you try to triangulate. In the process, you make use of your past knowledge, background knowledge. That's your background knowledge here. Now this is a very sophisticated, polished definition in the West for the logic of scientific method made in about 80 years. Before that, Greeks were thinking in the wrong fashion. I'll not, because of time, I will not go there. But Greeks were thinking in a very wrong fashion. There was something good about it. Greeks were thinking conjectural and introspective. Meaning you propose a hypothesis and you just think and see, maybe this is right, maybe this is wrong. Now that is wrong. But conjectural is a good part, like hypothesis is a good part. Now the Western modern science for a long time, do you know what they used to think? They used to think experimental and inductive. The experimental part is a good part, the inductive part is a wrong part. At least it's not always correct. So do you know what you want? You want a conjectural and experimental. Do you know where it is? Indian Darshana Shastra. You propose a hypothesis, now you go through the experimentation. Okay? So to solve a problem, you propose a hypothesis, you go through this circle in a simple way. It's a triangulation of explanation, prediction, testing in the context of a theory, in the context of background knowledge. Nyaya Darshana, one of the Shastra that I say it's a non-negotiable if you are a business student. Because I'm speaking to business student, I'm saying if you are a business student. If you are medical students, I would have said if you are a medical student, studying of Shastra is non-negotiable. If you are an engineering student, studying of Shastra is a non-negotiable. If you are lawyers, studying of Shastra is a non-negotiable. How many lawyers in the room? Okay. There is a lawyer here. Okay. But it's one thing to just know lawyers and one thing to have a lawyer friend. You know, that's a different story. Now, this Nyaya Darshana says Pancha Avayava. That's it, guys. Or if you want an expansion, it says Pratidnya Hetu Udarana Upanaya Nigamanani Avayavaha. And those are 5 Avayava. That's it. It took me 9 years, from about 7 years, 1993 to 2000. I was at California, Berkeley, used to take undergrad courses in quantum mechanics that time. Nobody talks about Nilesh and quantum mechanics, okay? But because wherever you succeed, kind of you go there. But that time, one professor, student of Karl Popper, he said, Nilesh, if you are so much interested, you should study Nyaya. And I said, I'm not interested in law. He said, that has nothing to do with the law, okay? Nyaya teaches you how to think properly, how to analyze things properly. It took me 7 years because I started with Nyaya and I said, what is this going on? I couldn't understand. Sapratipaksha Sthapana, Hino Vitanda. Okay, what do I do there? I don't want to do Vitanda. It took me 7 years. But I'll tell you the summary, guys, where the modern science and technology stops in terms of the method, in terms of innovation process. Where it stops, that's where Nyaya Darshana begins. That much, so much stuff. I just showed you one sutra, there are 500 sutra more. And that will just walk you through what to do, how to do it properly, and what not to do, and why not to do, okay? Again, a long list we can say. Now just look at this. This is our, at least the top 3 or so. Newton, we talked about Kepler. What's the big deal about Newton? What is it? Gravity, but the main thing is he wrote a formula. Actually, somebody said Kepler's laws, right? By the way, how much time I have? I'm good, na? 15 minutes, 15 more minutes. Right? That's the time I've been given, yeah. Kepler's law, somebody said, actually what Newton did is nothing but gave a formula to the 3 laws of Kepler. Okay? Let me ask you the question. How many of you have heard that Einstein wrote an essay? Now, when Einstein wrote it, Kepler was already gone, Newton was already gone. Einstein wrote an essay praising Kepler, not Newton. Not that he was against Newton. Do you know why? Because with the conditions, the knowledge that Kepler had, what Kepler had reached was phenomenally fascinating in comparison to what Newton reached with the knowledge Newton had. Do you know what's the difference? But Newton is very famous. The Newton could write the formula F equal to ma and then the 1/2 mv square. The idea, that's why I'm saying, you can find the correspondences with Indian Shastra. That is good. But the very essential changing or transformative ideas, they will come from a Shastra. One of the example of this is the fact that to explain or predict a phenomenon in nature, you can write a formula. That concept, you can go back, historians of the West, that concept was simply alien to the West. Until Jesuit scholars from Kerala took the Surya Siddhanta to Europe via Arab countries and Spain and whatnot. How many of you have read Surya Siddhanta or at least heard about it? How many of you have heard about Surya Siddhanta? Okay, how many of you have read it? Index, right? What is the first chapter? Madhyamadikar. How to find the average position of the planet. Second chapter, Spashtadhikar. How to find the precise position of the planet. In a simple language, how many of you have used vernier caliper? First the approximate reading, then the precise reading. Go and read Vernier. Even he refers to the way Indian ways of doing methods. Okay, actually they first always get the approximate answer. They always start from a Kalpa, Yuga, Manvantar. They come and get to this answer, and then they make a fine correction with those cowries, the calculation. So that's where the formula came. I can talk a lot about this Boolean logic, the whole computing, 0, 1, 1, 1, 0, 1, 1, 0, 0, the representation. Okay, that is a Pingala numbers. Okay, now Booleans, Mr. Boole, his wife has written how Boole was influenced by Vedanta. Now what happens when we hear something like this, we feel proud. Oh yeah, I feel very good about it. The way Boolean use Vedanta. The problem is we don't know what Vedanta is. Okay, I mean, one time me and Rupa Bhatti, my co-researcher, we were invited for International Vedanta Congress. We were invited, so we are going. So Rupa Bhatti said, but I don't know Vedanta. Right? I said, look, what is Vedanta? The 3 Bhagavad Gita, Upanishad, Brahma Sutra. He said, I don't know Brahma Sutra. I said, you know Bhagavad Gita. You say whatever you want to say. At least quote one verse from Bhagavad Gita, you will be fine. You understand what I'm saying? Actually, we went there. This was at JNU a few years ago. Rupa Bhatti's paper was one of the good papers. My paper was one of the good papers. Professor Balram Singh, who also works at the same institute, his paper was good. There was one Mr. Ghosh from Calcutta. He was phenomenal. I mean, he was better than everyone else. Everyone else, I'm telling you, was utter disaster and waste of time. Okay, so just don't go by like the word somebody uses. I also thought for a minute, like, why are they inviting me for Vedanta conference? Now I don't say no to anyone. You just invite, I am going. Okay. So actually, if you look at this, okay, so this is the one list here. I'll go fast. Let me go. Rinse and repeat. I think that's another message I want to quickly talk about. Now, rinse and repeat is not same as copy and paste. Many times we misunderstand this. Rinse and repeat is not copy and paste. Which is to say, I'm a chemical engineer and I did a lot of chemistry. So once you have done certain experiments, successful or not successful, you close this, you rinse your equipment and you start a new one. This is not same. But what I'm saying is the method I showed you is the same method you are going to use everywhere. And I have used it everywhere. Because of time, I'm not going there. But it's not something that I can use only in astronomy. I have used it, just I'll make a list. Geology, geophysics, geochemistry, hydrology, morphodynamics of rivers, oceanography, sedimentology, physical anthropology, genetics, on and on and on. You give me another subject, I can use it. The method does not change. It's that pancha avayava, period. Another problem, mostly doesn't happen in business because we are looking for solution. It happens in anthropology. We have some anthropology PhDs in our team there. And we have this fight. I will give a lecture to internal team how to do original research. And they will fight. They say, Sir Nilesh, you don't understand our subject, anthropology, or whatever the subject is. We have to do PhD to find out what the problem is. I say one word, nonsense. Purva Paksha is required. It's a must. But if all that you are going to do is a Purva Paksha, do you know why? Because unless you define a problem, unless you try to solve the problem, you truly do not understand what the problem is. So unless you're trying to solve, it's nothing. So actually internally, the PhD thesis that come to me, I'm not a PhD by the way, people use honorific doctor, but I guide 25 plus PhDs, okay? The point is, when they come and they say, I'm going to define what the problem is, I said, no, just stop PhD, do something useful. You have to solve problems. It may be small, it may be big. Something else happens. You start with a certain problem, you will work on it, you may not be successful in solving that problem, but something magical happens. When you try to solve a tough problem, challenging the status quo, even if you don't solve that problem, in the process you solve many other problems of a higher complexity. Okay? So go for it, you will not lose. So this is one example of it. Are we ready to innovate in education? Now I bring home the problem here. Here meaning everywhere. I don't know about India. I'm only spending a significant time in last 2 years. But although I worked in corporate, like General Electric for 20 years and then consultant for 10 plus years, different companies. Most of the companies you can relate. Coca-Cola. Okay? How many of you enjoy Coca-Cola? Raise your hand. Okay, stop drinking. Okay? Delta Airlines, Home Depot, so on. But my point is, are we ready to innovate in education? I'll tell you about the America. I also worked in American academia. It may be obvious to some of you. American academia right now, for most part, exceptions may be STEM, like science, engineering, medicine, etc. But even there is a big problem. The kind of PhDs, and I don't mean just PhD, the kind of research that is coming out is very agenda-centered. You know, meaning how to make money. I mean, some of the 10-year consulting I did, finally I used to ask, tell me what you want. I know statistics. I can give you whatever you want, but don't waste my time, you know. It's kind of like that. I'll just give you, the reason I'm saying is, many of you may be interested in going to America, and I'm not saying don't go there. You will learn a lot, phenomenal infrastructure, a lot of things to learn. But if you don't have an Indian Shastra behind you, you will never be original in what you do. Because remember, if you want to innovate, question the status quo. The American education system right now is basically like a house eaten by termites. Okay? And everyone inside it says, you know, I know that, but let me retire. Okay? Let me get through the system. And that's how things are. And I don't know how it is in India, but basically India follows America. Right? So I wouldn't be surprised. Now, quickly, just 5 more minutes. If you look at the top there, I don't know if you can see it, that Schrodinger equation. If you look at here, it's the Einstein's field equation. We understand this, we get fascinated. But if we see a mantra, now we have a Rigveda expert here. If you see a Rigveda Rucha or Ruk, we don't think there is anything useful in it. Okay? Om Tvanno Asya Amate Rutakshudo Abhishaste Ravasprudi. Tvanna Uti Tava Chitraya Diya Shiksha Shachishta Gatuvita. This is just to impress you guys, by the way. Now this one is a Rigvedic pedagogy, the Rigvedic model of education. Because of time, I will not go there. See, if I would have presented here, people said this guy is nuts. I presented this at Boston. And people said, this is so fascinating. The Americans are coming, so fascinating. There are Americans, educationists are leaving the education post and they're starting something equivalent of a Gurukula in America. But it's a half method because the full Indian Shastra foundation is not there, but they're trying good. If you just convert this, what it is saying here, the formulas become difficult, it will look something like this. Okay? Einstein's space-time curvature, here finding an electron and the probability of finding electron Schrodinger's. And this is the formula. This is the Indian Rigvedic pedagogy model, which is an apprentice type of best. What is the problem? It's very practical. Don't think like Rigveda is some esoteric. Don't use the word spiritual. Okay? It says, Tvanno asya amate kshuda abhishastu. My mind should think properly. all my hunger, desires, they should get fulfilled, and I should be healthy to enjoy them. Abhishastu means curse. When we are not feeling well, we say this. And his prayer to Indra, he says, give us those skills. But it doesn't say, give me the certificate. It says, please create a web of these skills in front of me, in front of us, and become a pathfinder, Gatu Vita. Become a guide, Margadarshak to us. We will learn on our own. Just be there in case we have a question. We have a shlok in Sanskrit which says, oh yeah, I have no good professor. My daughter will also, America will come and says, my chemistry professor is not good. I said, what about other subjects? There also you are not getting A++, right? The point is 25% teacher can do, 25% from peer learning, 25% swadhyaya, which many people don't want to do, sitting together and doing it, and 25% in the process of actually applying the knowledge, living a life. That's when you learn, okay? Why do we miss even existing innovations? I want to just quickly show some examples. Okay, now this is not to put people on the spot here who are wearing the ties, but actually I do want to put them on the spot. Now the point I want to make it, even people will say, it's so hot in Thane, why are you wearing the jacket? This is a long story, but the short story is so that people can quickly recognize who is the speaker. Okay, I'll just go with a t-shirt and jeans and I can do that, that's not a problem. But then the people have a problem, you know, even in GE it used to happen. I used to do corporate training. I have trained 8,000 GE executives, you know. So I used to go in a t-shirt and jeans and that was okay internally. But they cannot imagine 5'6" brown guy teaching us executives, right? So when I used to sit and I used to get up, when the time comes, I said, I think the instructor is not around, let me start. And they used to think, who is this weirdo? Because they would know the name. So last name is Oak. So many things is British and whatnot too. But then they also used to think, because the good name or a bad name, they knew it before. Like this guy is very strict and whatnot. So they used to imagine, now I have gray hair, but I'm talking of 30 years ago. And they used to imagine, so they used to tell me afterwards, they say, I was imagining you to be 6'4", gray hair, couple of PhDs in different areas and stuff like this. So that's how we form the image. My point is, everyone knows why the tie came into being. I'm just using that as a metaphor, guys, by the way. Nothing wrong. I know how to wear a tie. I have few ties. When in Rome, be like a Roman, I understand. In America, usually in the business, we don't have to wear a tie that much. But anytime Japanese customers came, they always came in a 3-piece. So at least we need a blazer and a tie. So in my office, I used to have one. And periodically I used to practice that I can put a knot, you know. So that's nothing wrong. But why it is? Why in a hot weather in India, the students, our uniforms, thank you. The blazers, don't you feel hot? So why, I mean, see, this is a business opportunity, guys. We can design a very nice, and people are doing it by the way, a business dresses which are perfectly meant for India. Okay, and let's sell those dresses in America and Canada and let them suffer. Okay, challenge the status quo, the innovation and a business opportunity is waiting for you. Okay, Foundation of Drug-Based Medicine, I'll go quickly, sorry I might have gone over my time. Do you know Wellcome Group, a British guy, the Wellcome business, a medical company, you know, he sent a guy to India just before the First World War and said, scour everything about the Indian medical system, everything. He gave him a very good amount, 250 pounds, which was a big deal then, you know, and said, scour everything, when done, you come back. He took 11 years. I don't have a time to show you. That was his message to him. Don't come back until you figure out everything about Indian medicine. Any doctors, medical doctors in the audience? No. Thank you. Ayurveda, huh? But the materia medica that you talk about is basically Ayurveda, Charaka and Vagbhat, and you can see the list of medicines. That is the foundation of it. Okay? And you can see these exhibitions being done. So if we do some yoga, we laugh at it. They don't. They call it mindful meditation and make it $1 billion industry. And then we also sit in a coat and a tie and say, what are you doing? I'm doing mindful meditation. just complete circles and kind of comes back. Agada Tantra, like how to use a poison, Marathi मध्ये काट्यानं काटा काढणं म्हणूया आपण, okay? How to do this. Vaccination is nothing but this, okay? The Shikekai, I'm almost done, if I'm going over time. Shikekai, like I grew up in Konkan, and my mother used to send me, when she is going to do this, get some Shikekai, and I say, why? You know, there is these bottles, you get all ready-made and something, and I used to laugh at her. I mean, guilty as charged. While I was doing this, in the background, an American businessman who hired two microbiologists / pharmacy folks, Gujarati couple from Mumbai, took them to Minneapolis. This product was shampoo, Shikekai shampoo. He didn't say Shikekai, I mean afterwards he used it, you know, but initially shampoo. Do you know the name of it? Aveda. Even we don't say Aveda, we say Aveda, because Americans say that way. Do you know what Aveda stands for? A-V-E-D-A. You might have seen this brand. Yes? It stands for Ayurveda. He started with a shampoo, single product shampoo, and then built the whole thing. $1 billion, basically the tag on this, and then now sold it and so on. But you can see this frankly for everything. We have the foundation. I'll go quickly. We have the foundation. You can listen to my other lectures. Okay, so basically the endurance in conduct, we have to do the work, no choice, freedom of thought, and then the niti, we have to do it with a niti. Okay, the absolute morality, ahimsa, satyam, asteya, etc. Okay, it's connected with our body, tana, mana, sharira, etc. Vijnana buddhi, you go look for in the West, you don't have to, you can go there, that's fine. But basically they got it from here. If you use the Shastra that I referred to, the Shat Darshanas, you are going to find the 11 elements of Vijnana Buddhi, scientific acumen. In Nyaya Darshana, those are the 16 things. The one in the green are the good one in the red are the bad one, what not to do and what to do. Okay? We can just go on and on. Frameworks are already there, guys. Myers-Briggs, how many of you have heard of Myers-Briggs? Or these days many, DISC, D-I-S-C, whatever you want to do. Myers-Briggs, do you know the story? Myers-Briggs, mother and a sister. They came up with this classification of human beings at workplace, whatnot. But they were not confident. It so happened, Carl Jung, or Carl Jung, whichever you want to say it, he happened to have visited Boston, Harvard at that time. So they said, Professor Jung, what do you think of this? And do you know what he said? He said, Om, go ahead with it. It so happened he had come to India, he had studied Bhagavad Gita, and allegedly he quoted the verse, I don't have a proof of it, but you think of it, Artha Jidnyasu Artharthi Jnani Cha Bharatarshava. There are 4 types of devotees. You can take 4. If I had a time, I would show you anything you can take, split it into 4, and find a way to get it to what is desired. Because of time, I will stop. The second thing, tetradic schema, like, you know, start with the problem, you solve it, you successful, it's not done. It creates more problems, more opportunities. Use rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. Start working on those problems. You are going to make lots of money, guys. Okay? It's an iterative process. I'll go fast because I have gone over my time. This is from Taittiriya Upanishad, Bhrugu Varuni Vidya. In one shot, there is nothing happens. Yesterday when I came to Thane last night, I don't know what the advertisement is about, but I happened to read on the highway. It says there is no elevator to the success. You might have seen what that ad is. Only staircase. It's only in an iterative fashion that you can reach your destination. Because of time, I will skip this. Questioning the status quo, that's important. These guys question the status quo. Columbus on one side, Vasco da Gama on the other side. The intel inside was India, 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 India. That's where they wanted to go. And once they found the routes, look at the timing. I'm pulling you back to Angus Madison. When Western European nations started becoming rich, you'll connect that with the Columbus, you'll connect that with Vasco da Gama. Okay? Because of time, I will not go there. They thought there is nothing. Let's question the status quo. And they found a big continent there. Okay? To look at this. Experiment, never give up. This is the method. Okay? Yeah, because of time, I'll skip through this. Last one. Milk revolution. Anytime you think of a milk, whose name comes to you? Huh? Amul, very good. No, that's fine. Varna. Huh? Varghese, very good, which is Amul, right? Or this is Gopal Sutariya or Krishna. I was hoping somebody will say Krishna. Now, of course, before Krishna, there were experiments. Like if you go to Ramayana times, there is a King Dilip who followed Nandini and so on. Basically showing, because these are experimentation guys, and the stories are told you metaphorically. So people thought, cow, but can I get enough protein? He said, yeah, if you take good care of a cow, you can get enough protein. You can get enough milk. It can be sustainable. That is the story of a Dilip. But fast forward, many people tried. But you come to the Mahabharata time, 7,500 years ago, and Krishna made the revolution. That is a Gopal. And do you know something? The European people's ability to digest the milk, the genetic modification, how many of you heard that? It came out into 7,500 years ago. Okay? Gilles Yao, if you want to follow the name, to keep me honest, Gilles Yao, a Chinese-American scientist, he said the modification into the gene for the Europeans came into being 7,500 years ago. Do you know why? It are out of India migrations with the cows, mouse, domestic mouse, and so on and so forth. That's how it took milk. So besides meat, you can also consume milk, and actually it's a more sustainable model. Okay? Just last slide. No innovation without questioning the status quo. Question the dogma. Sanskriti always comes with prakruti, vikruti. Do not go on the defensive. Like says, but you have this problem. Rigveda, did they eat meat? You know, I mean, whether they ate meat or not, different point. When people ask me, I say, yeah, they ate meat. Now next. What's the big deal about eating meat, not eating meat? Go next. Okay? Infinite and pragmatic curiosity. See, we have athato dharma jidnyasa, athato brahma jidnyasa. Curiosity should start everything. Seeing the dots connecting between them. Shed tamas, laziness, build shraddha, question and expose mediocrity and stupidity. Question stupidity. If something is stupid, call it stupid. Do not try to simplify and say, I don't agree with you. That's not enough. Comprehend Abhyudaya and Nishreyas. I think that's where I began. I can stop. Please forgive me going over time possibly. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, sir, for enriching our understanding of how timeless Indian wisdom continues to guide modern management. Any questions?
Yeah, Nilesh sir, now this is something which I've seen out of your podcasts and out of the various YouTube videos that I've seen of yours. Like you have dated the Ramayana, the Mahabharata and the Rigveda. I just want to ask you, where would you place, timeline-wise, where would you place the Harappan civilization in this?
Good question. Everyone understood the question? Mahabharata 7,500 years ago, Ramayana 14,000, on and on. Because of time I didn't go, and that was not the subject today. I could go to 70,000 years back, evidence and civilization. If you can digest that, I can go take you back to 2,20,000 years, and we can go on and on. Swan culture goes back to 500,000 years in India, okay? But his question, so where does Indus Valley civilization fits here into all this? Where it ought to fit. The Indus Valley or Sindhu Saraswati civilization, whatever you want to call, approximately, if you go to Mehergarh, 7,000 BC, so that's from 9,000 BC to about 1800 BC, Harappa. So that's where it fits. So
Okay.
what is the problem? Yeah.
Yeah, the problem, not the problem actually, my observation or rather is that there are not too many references to the Ramayana in the Harappan excavations that were found. So, I mean, if something as great as the Ramayana has happened before Harappa, how come there is no mention of it in any of the things that were found there?
Correct. So the question is like, how come there is no evidence of it? Okay, so great question, but do you know where it comes from? The foundation of that question is wrong. Question is not wrong itself. The foundation is wrong. Because we have this assumption that everything that happened, or at least some of the 6 things that happened, there should be some evidence of it. Okay, the simple way to explain, the beggars cannot be choosy. As a historian, as an archaeologist, whatever you want to call it, we are beggars. What happens, the misconception comes because we go to museums, lots of objects, in fact so many objects that we get tired and exhausted, we say, when am I going to eat pizza? after this. So we think there are so many objects found, but considering the civilization and what happened around the world, I don't mean just India, the amount of objects, the number of objects we find in the museum is minuscule. It is 0.0000001% of what the things. We should feel lucky that we find some things. Now, in that context, if you start looking, you all listen to my talks. If you start listening to the talks and other books and whatnot, you will find actually the amount of evidence that exists for Ram, that or Ramayana times, that exists for Mahabharata times. If you go back 1,000 years from today, I challenge all of you and everyone who is not even in this room, find me one personality other than Ram and Krishna, going back more than 1,000 years before that. Any person who has more scientific, logical, empirical evidence in comparison to Ram or Krishna. There is none. That's my open challenge for any personality around the world. Because then we need to understand what scientific method is, what empirical evidence is, and so on and so forth. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.